What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. So, WrestleMania is upon us. We are just mere days away from WrestleMania. We are, at the time of recording this, away from NXT TakeOver New York. My hype levels are really ramping up as the hours move on. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting matches that have certainly developed over the last couple of weeks. I thought a couple of really good episodes of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live this past week, so lots to talk about. This is going to be another bit of a bumper episode. I know back when I started several episodes ago, it was all about NXT and NXT UK, but the closer you get to a big event like WrestleMania, the more you want to talk about it, the more you want to talk about the matches, the build, predictions, and that's pretty much going to be the format for today. So we're going to be looking at the WrestleMania card, breaking down each match, and kind of I'll give you my prediction for what it's worth for each of the matches, what I think will be the kind of the lay of the land at the end of WrestleMania. Going to touch on briefly the G1 Supercard. That's the New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor Supercard from Madison Square Garden, which has taken place on the Saturday night. So yes, it's a bit of a bumper episode, but then if you've listened for the last few weeks, you're probably used to that. No more 30 to 40 minute episodes. Each one seems to be going over the hour. But like I say, once things calm down a little bit, we're kind of beyond WrestleMania season. Hopefully we can kind of get back to normal and get back to the normal 30-40 minute episodes, which I know that a lot of you like. But I hope you've had a great week. Yes, I've had a good week as well. I've only got 2 more shifts at work before I have a 5-day break where I can watch wall-to-wall wrestling and be completely and utterly exhausted at the end of it. Bearing in mind that, like most of our UK listeners and the UK viewers of anything that's taken place stateside, yes, you'll be awake at funny hours of the morning, from midnight through till 4 or 5, or however long WrestleMania goes on for, into the wee hours on Monday morning. But certainly for myself, 3 really fun nights that I'm looking forward to. Friday night with NXT TakeOver New York. Saturday I'm going to be staying up to watch the G1 Supercard from Madison Square Gardens. And of course Sunday I'll be watching WrestleMania. And of course Sunday afternoon I'll be catching up with the Hall of Fame from the Saturday night. And there's going to be lots of recording going on throughout the weekend as well, so we can keep you guys up to date with various special guest hosts. So the kind of plan at the moment, as it stands, is that me, Matt Bayliss, and David Anderson will be back. We're looking to do a 3-man booth to cover NXT TakeOver New York, so of course that airs on the WWE Network Friday night into the wee hours of Saturday morning. We're going to try and cover that and get that review episode up on Saturday afternoon. WrestleMania, of course, takes place on Sunday, going into Monday UK time, and looking to get that recorded Monday to get that up Monday afternoon, Monday evening, so we can get our thoughts and our reviews and our feelings about those 2 shows out as quickly as we can. I will also be watching the G1 Supercard. I've just renewed my subscription to New Japan World. It's really good value for money. I think it's like 9.99 yen, 9 yen 99. And that translates down to about £7 in English money, in sterling. It's an excellent value for money. So that's kind of per month. But even if you just wanted to watch the G1 Supercard, £7 to see that is still an absolute bargain. And I'll run down some of their matches, or all the matches, a bit later on. First of all, a couple of plugs for Wrestling with Johners. So if you wanted to reach out to the show, you can do. You can email the show, give us some feedback, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of on Wrestling with Johners. Simply email wrestlingwithjohners@gmail.com. We've got a Twitter page which is slowly approaching 900 followers, so we'd really like to kind of get that close to 900 before WrestleMania. And like I say, once we reach that milestone of 1,000 listeners, then we can really start shouting about our success on Twitter. You can reach out to our Twitter page at withjohners_pod. We're on Instagram as well. Instagram.com/wrestlingwithjohners, and of course our Facebook group, where I tend to kind of update with funny articles, news stories, and various topics of interest. There's lots of new articles going up there all the time as we get closer to WrestleMania. A really fun and interactive Facebook group, and just go onto Facebook and search Wrestling with Johners. So let's have a look at the WrestleMania card then. No better time for it. This is the go home episode of Wrestling with Johners before WrestleMania weekend. And at the moment, unless I've missed one, there's 15 matches confirmed. 15 matches confirmed. We're expecting 3 or 4 of those to be on the pre-show. Now, WrestleMania 34, there was only 3. That was the 2 Battle Royals and the Cruiserweight match. So expect there to be maybe 3, possibly 4 this time at the Metlife Stadium. So let's have a look at some of the matches then. Of course, you got the Women's Battle Royal, which was announced earlier on in the week, where you got combatants such as the very unfortunate Asuka. You've got Mandy Rose, Carmella, Mickie James, Sonya Deville, and many others. I think it was 13 announced. Naomi. Or 1 or 2 others. Haven't got the full list of that 13 in front of me at the moment, but you probably get some surprises in there. You probably get some maybe veteran women wrestlers appear in the Women's Battle Royal. Now, something I mentioned on our Facebook group is I think it should be renamed. Last year they tried to get away with naming it the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, and of course that was canned once Snickers caught wind of her kind of bad reputation and kind of not very fantastic legacy within the wrestling business in terms of the way she treated a lot of her female wrestlers, essentially pimping them out when she was meant to be looking after them and training them and taking the majority of their income from when they were wrestling. And that they took the Fabulous Moolah moniker away from the Women's Battle Royal, and it's just the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. I think they should call it the Sensational Invitational. What do you think about that? Of course, naming it after Sensational Sherry Martel, and I think that would be a fun name for the Battle Royal, the Sensational Invitational. There we go. If anybody from the WWE front office are listening to this, it's not too late. Looking at the entrance, some might say that Asuka could be a front runner, being as she only just lost the SmackDown Women's Championship to Charlotte on last week's SmackDown. Others might think that Mandy Rose could be deserving of the win here, because she was originally penciled in to be Asuka's opponent, challenger to Asuka's SmackDown Women's Championship. That, of course, didn't happen. Mandy Rose was meant to be the winner of the 4-way match that was meant to have taken place last week between herself, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Naomi, and Carmella. Like I say, that rug got pulled out from underneath them and changed into the match between Charlotte and Asuka, which was one hell of a match. And I know that a lot of Asuka fans are not happy with the outcome there, and the fact that Asuka is kind of left out in the open with no clear match, or certainly not having a title to defend at WrestleMania. But she is going to be one of the favourites for the Women's Battle Royal. I think a dark horse to keep an eye out for would be Sonya Deville. I do think that the management in the WWE likes Sonya Deville. I think that she is in line for a bit of a push in 2019 alongside Mandy Rose. When I say alongside, I don't expect them to be kind of buddies, pals for too much longer. I wouldn't be surprised to see those two feud, and there could be a little bit of a storyline breakup during the Battle Royal, which could plant the seeds for that feud. But I think Sonya Deville could be in line for a bit of a push. I think the winner is going to be Mandy Rose. like I say, she was in line for a championship match against Asuka. She was meant to have won the 4-way at last week's SmackDown. We all know that didn't happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mandy Rose wins the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Now, she's not the best wrestler in the world, far from it, but she's got a great look, got a great entrance. She is getting better in the ring. Certainly, compared to Lana standards, she's, Bret Hart compared to Lana. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say Mandy Rose. Now, I actually like Mandy Rose, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Then we got the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle, so let's get the Battle Royals out of the way. There's not been too many wrestlers that's been mentioned for entering the Battle Royal. You've got wrestlers such as Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil and Baron Corbin, and those two dudes from Saturday Night Live, whose name I haven't memorised yet, and I'm sure they'll be as quickly forgotten after Sunday night. But even with the star power of the two guys from Saturday Night Live and the star power of having Braun Strowman in there, the reports are that this has already been relegated to the pre-show, which is a real shame for Braun Strowman because in his first WrestleMania official match, well, I say official match, he was in the Andre Battle Royal at WrestleMania 33 and got tipped out fairly quickly, although he was red hot at the time, really making a good name for himself. Should have had some kind of featured match on the show, didn't. WrestleMania 34, he was in the match before the main event, against the Bar for the Raw Tag Team Championships, and his tag team partner was 10-year-old Nicholas, pulled out from the crowd, and although it was fun at the time, it was kind of, looking back at it in hindsight, quite an embarrassing segment, quite an embarrassing match, and not great for Braun Strowman's reputation as being a badass in the ring. Like I've heard many kind of podcasters say in the past, you wouldn't put Steve Austin in a match like that with a 10-year-old or anybody pulled out from the crowd. So why would you do it with Braun Strowman when he did have that kind of badass, powerful monster gimmick persona? But I think that kind of as a little bit of a make-do with Braun Strowman, I think he'll win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle. There's certainly nobody else that's been announced at the moment that could be a contender. Potentially Kevin Owens, but I'll talk more about him in a bit. But I'm going to say Braun Strowman here, and it's a shame once again that he's not on a featured match at WrestleMania. They've really not done him any justice or any favours. Maybe he's partly to do with that in terms of how he has mishandled opportunities, some might say. Then you've got the Boston Hug Connection, Sasha Banks and Bayley defending their women's tag team titles against the Divas of Doom. That's Beth Phoenix making her return, and Natalya versus the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce versus Nia Jax and Tamina. So it's a 4-team match, where it's a fatal 4-way for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. So let's have a look at this. I mean, Bayley and Sasha Banks, they haven't had too many matches where they've had to defend their championships, so it's not been kind of widely defended on many WWE shows so far. You've got the Divas of Doom, Beth Phoenix making her return pretty much out of the blue. I mean, she has been a regular feature as part of the commentary team. Last year's Mae Young Classic, the 2018 Mae Young Classic, she was part of the commentary team. She was part of the commentary team at WWE Evolution pay-per-view back in October. But I quite like Beth Phoenix, and she's not wrestled for the WWE in any sort of match for well over 6 years now, I believe. But she still looks great, and she gets a good reaction from the fans, and I think that there'll be kind of a good photo opportunity when she kind of faces off against Nia Jax on Sunday, and I think that Beth Phoenix is probably going to get the better of that exchange. I'm not a fan of Natalya, to be honest with you, but I'm kind of going to be rooting for this team because I do like Beth Phoenix, and I think that she's kind of done herself some justice. She's looking good in her return here. The Iconics, I think, are there for comedy value. I did quite enjoy their outing at Elimination Chamber, the Women's Elimination Chamber, back in February. I haven't really got too many good words to say about Tamina. Nia Jax is okay. I do like the Boston Hug connection. I think it's really between the Boston Hug connection, Bayley and Sasha, and the Divas of Doom. I think the Boston Hug connection are going to retain here. I think that it's going to get quite messy. I think the Divas of Doom are going to start brawling on the outside, possibly, and kind of get into a messy situation with Jax and Tamina. And I think that the Boston Hug Connection are going to get the better of the Iconics to gain the pinfall victory against them. Yeah, so Sasha and Bayley, I think they're retaining. Then we've got Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor. So this is a feud that's been building over probably a couple of months now, back and forth. They've kind of had 50-50 booking where Bobby Lashley's won a couple of their encounters, Finn Balor's won a couple of their encounters. Finn Balor, of course, won the Intercontinental Championship when he pinned Bobby Lashley at Fastlane. I think he lost the championship to Bobby Lashley the same week. I think it was on that week's Raw after Fastlane. But the odds have been stacked against Finn Balor quite a bit in this exchange, with Lio Rush being involved, Jinder Mahal being involved, and Finn Balor, of course, won a handicap match on last week's Monday Night Raw where he pinned Jinder Mahal, and Bobby Lashley went crazy and beat up the Singh brothers, beat up Jinder Mahal, and on this week's Raw it was confirmed that Finn Balor will be bringing out the Demon. He will be wrestling his match at WrestleMania as the Demon, the long-awaited return of the Demon. And we've not seen Finn Balor as the Demon for a little while, but it'd be great to see him return here, getting a proper WrestleMania entrance as the Demon. I think it's going to be quite a spectacle. I've been looking forward to seeing Finn Balor have a proper WrestleMania Demon entrance for quite a while. I was really happy to see him in the flesh at WrestleMania 34 last year, but just as ordinary for everyone, Finn Balor this time round as a Demon. I think it's going to add a little bit to the match, to be honest with you, as well, because I think we've seen Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley on a number of occasions. There could well be some outside interference from Lio Rush, but it'll be nice to see Lio Rush get a little bit of a WrestleMania moment. But I can see Finn Balor winning the Intercontinental Championship, or winning it again against Bobby Lashley here as the Demon at WrestleMania. And I think that it will be. I think it'll be a good match. I think that Bobby Lashley is definitely capable. Finn Balor is more than capable. I think with the inclusion of Lio Rush kind of bouncing around as the kind of wingman of Bobby Lashley could add a bit of fun to the proceedings. But I'm going for a Finn Balor win, and he's going to be the Intercontinental Champion when all is said and done. Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns has headlined the last 4 WrestleManias, 3 WrestleManias, I think. So WrestleMania 34 against, I was right the first time, WrestleMania 34 against Brock Lesnar, of course, WrestleMania 33 against The Undertaker, 32 against Triple H, 31 against Roman Reigns, with Brock Lesnar, my apologies, with the kind of sudden inclusion of Seth Rollins, who cashed in his Money in the Bank at the end of WrestleMania 31 to win the match and to leave the Levi's Stadium back in 2015 as the WWE Champion. But we fast forward to 2019, and there's been the kind of Roman Reigns been out for a number of months from October through to January, recovering from his leukemia. And he is well on the road to recovery. I think he's kind of almost fully recovered from that, I understand. And he's back looking great. not in the main event here, which is a refreshing change, to be honest with you. And the fans certainly turned against him last year in New Orleans. I know. I was one of the 70,000 plus people that was not happy with the match and the way it went. And just a match going on last, full stop. To be honest with you, I felt that Triple H and Stephanie versus Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey was the best match of the night, and that would have been an awesome main event and a great way to send the people home. Here, Roman Reigns going up against Drew McIntyre. Now, Drew McIntyre has been back on the main roster for roughly a year now, back in the WWE for a couple of years, with a year in NXT, 6 months out with an injury, of course. Roman Reigns, I think, is going to go over here. Now, it would be a good opportunity to put over the new guy, the younger guy, Drew McIntyre. Do I honestly think that's going to happen at WrestleMania? I think they're going to get the happy ended with Roman going over. I think that Drew McIntyre is definitely deserving of a feature match here against Roman Reigns, who is still the golden boy of WWE, and will no doubt be back in the main event scene soon after WrestleMania. I don't see Drew McIntyre winning this match. I'd love him to. My heart says Drew McIntyre, my head says Roman Reigns. Then we've got the United States Championship. Now, at the moment, it's meant to be champion Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio, but there's been news reports going around that Rey Mysterio is out injured, or he's got an ankle injury. I don't know if he's out injured, but they're monitoring him very, very closely to see if he's going to be fit and well and match ready for Sunday against Samoa Joe. And I've even put it out there on the Wrestling with Johners Facebook page who would be the best person to replace Rey Mysterio if he can't go on Sunday. There's been some reports that potentially it could be John Cena. And I think back when Samoa Joe first won the United States Championship, people were looking ahead to WrestleMania and thinking, yeah, John Cena would be a fantastic opponent. They both came into the business roughly at the same time, trained, together. So there's a history there from when they both broke into the business. And it would kind of tie up that story, but WWE have never been great at telling that sort of story, to be honest with you. Instead of focusing on kind of, the history, the legacy of two individuals, they'd rather focus on, something more current, something that doesn't quite make as much sense. So if Rey Mysterio can't go, could it be John Cena? But then I spoke about one wrestler who is not on the WrestleMania card and who kind of returned at Fastlane, was part of the WWE Championship match in the main event at Fastlane against Daniel Bryan and Mustafa Ali. Could it be Kevin Owens? Could it be Mustafa Ali? He's another one that's currently got not much to do apart from being one of the entrants into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So, who knows? If it does end up being Rey Mysterio, and I hope it is, because I think Rey Mysterio deserves his WrestleMania return, because he has been, and I'm sure you'll all agree, absolutely fantastic to watch, and a real kind of, he's a credit to himself the way he's come back. He's been in the business for 25 years now, and he looks every bit as good now as he did 10, 15, 20 years ago. He hasn't slowed down, and his matches with Andrade have been fantastic. And that could be another name that could potentially be in contention for, replacing Rey Mysterio. I wouldn't be, against having Andrade in there, making it a three-way, taking a little bit of the pressure off of Rey Mysterio, so he's not having to do all the work against Samoa Joe. And we know that Rey and Andrade have got fantastic chemistry, and we know that Samoa Joe can deliver the goods with pretty much any of his opponents. If it's just a straight one-on-one, if Rey Mysterio can go on Sunday, then I like the heel Samoa Joe, but I think Rey Mysterio could pull off the victory here. we will have to see. It depends how banged up his ankle is, and if he is match ready, then he could win it. If he's not quite match ready, they might still put him in the match, meaning that Samoa Joe might win, because if Rey Mysterio needs to take time off to fully recover after WrestleMania, he can't really be seen as the US champ, or kind of, not be seen defending his championship. So circumstances will kind of dictate how this match goes. I think Samoa Joe will retain, so I'm going to go with Samoa Joe. Then we've got AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. So this, to be honest with the card, I am getting more and more excited about the card, but this is one match that does stand out to me because I like AJ Styles. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. Got a really great history. Been in many memorable matches. Since he's been with WWE, I think he has toned down his wrestling style quite a bit. Of course, that would come with AJ, being a bit older, a bit wiser, doing house shows as well as TV shows and pay-per-views, being a regular fixture on the WWE roster, and he is kind of one of the main kind of ambassadors, one of the main flag wavers of the WWE nowadays. So his style was always going to have to kind of slow down a little bit. Randy Orton, I've never been a big fan of Randy Orton, certainly not when Randy Orton has been the babyface. I've always enjoyed Randy Orton as the heel, because I think he does make a great heel. I think his character, his moves, his promos are definitely more suited to being a heel. So I like this kind of combination of AJ Styles and Randy Orton. They've had some really good promos, some really good mic work on SmackDown over the last month or so, bringing a lot of reality and a lot of real life stuff into the mix with their promos, which has kind of made me more interested in these two, more interested in the match. And like I say, out of all the matches, this is one of the matches I am looking forward to, because I think the build's been good and because I think these two can deliver, and I think they've shown good chemistry on the mic during promo segments, and I think that could also transfer over into their match on Sunday. Who will win? Well, I think everybody's thinking imaginatively about how Randy Orton might be able to execute his RKO. We saw him execute an RKO off of AJ Styles' phenomenal forearm, or the springboard move that he attempted on Tuesday after their the Kevin Owens talk show segment, and that was really good. So we know that they're not going to play out that spot again on Sunday. So the question has to be asked, how are they going to play out that spot on Sunday? And I'm sure it will be a fun segment. We've seen a lot of clips, a lot of memes regarding Randy Orton and how he can execute an RKO out of nowhere from any situation. And I'm currently watching WrestleMania 31, where he executes that awesome RKO on Seth Rollins from an attempted curb stomp. And that's got to be one of the best RKOs of all time. You've obviously got the Evan Bourne one, where Randy Orton catches Evan Bourne in an RKO off of a shooting star press, and many others. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure we're going to get an RKO out of nowhere, but whether it will be enough to win the match, AJ Styles has had a bit of a winning streak at WrestleMania over the last few years. He lost his first WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 32 against Chris Jericho, but then at 33 he beat Shane McMahon. At 34 he managed to beat Shinsuke Nakamura from the Styles Clash in their match for the WWE Championship. Interesting. This one's close to call. I am going to go with the babyface here, so I'm going to go with AJ Styles. I could be wrong. This is kind of one where it's 50-50. I could be wrong, but there's a chance that AJ Styles, having just signed a new contract as well, not that it has, shouldn't have any bearing on the outcome of the match, but AJ Styles, I believe, will be the winner here. That one is going to be close to call, though. Then we've got Shane McMahon versus The Miz. So I think when this match first started to build, nobody was really looking forward to it. Shane and The Miz were tag team champions, of course, had a bit of a rivalry going with the Usos, a couple of good pay-per-view matches, one on Elimination Chamber, one on Fastlane last month. And the matches were okay, okay to good, and there was a few good spots on there as well, certainly from Shane McMahon with all of his death-defying leaps across the ring. And then Shane McMahon turned heel. The Miz has made an okay babyface. I think he's always naturally a much better, much more of a believable heel. But Shane McMahon's made a good heel. The Miz has made an okay babyface. I think that the build to this has been better than expected and has actually caught the interest of a lot of wrestling fans. And although there's a lot of wrestling fans who aren't a big fan of The Miz or Shane McMahon for their wrestling style, I think that they have been able to pull together some good segments here, certainly on SmackDown Live leading up to this match on Sunday. And the interest level is probably better than it would have been had it been the other way round, with Shane McMahon as the babyface and The Miz as the heel, although that's kind of more their preferred personas. I think that Shane McMahon is going to try and kill himself again, whether he's going to jump off of the WrestleMania sign. This is a Falls Count Anywhere match, so I don't expect them to brawl too much into the crowd. You probably get a bit of that, but there might be some kind of weapons involved. But I think it is ultimately going to lead to Shane McMahon jumping off of something very, very high, potentially crashing and burning, giving Miz the opportunity to hook a leg and get a win with the unconscious Shane McMahon under a pile of tables or chairs or something like that. It could be a bit of a sleeper match as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this one is definitely a talking point the following day, certainly for any stunts that Shane McMahon might pull off. But I'm going to go with The Miz here. I think that he will overcome. I wouldn't be surprised if The Miz's father, George Mizanin, is involved somehow. Possibly, Shane McMahon could get a little bit rough with George Mizanin, and George could potentially slap Shane McMahon, and there could be a little bit of physicality there from Mr. Mizanin there. But I'm going for The Miz here. Then we got Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. So this is meant to be Angle's farewell match. So not only his final WrestleMania match, but his final match in the WWE. Now, there's been a lot of critics of Baron Corbin, not very happy that Baron Corbin is Kurt Angle's opponent in his final ever match. But to be honest with you, looking at Kurt Angle, looking at his body, looking at, can he actually go in the ring? I don't think he's been the same the same Kurt Angle compared to what we had when Kurt Angle was in the WWE 10 years ago, or when he was part of TNA 5 years ago. But maybe Kurt Angle, Baron Corbin is the right opponent for Kurt Angle, because I don't think Kurt Angle could really go any more than 5, 8, 10 minutes max with somebody more capable than Baron Corbin. I think Baron Corbin is being pushed. He is quite high with the WWE management, or high on, they do like him. They do like Baron Corbin. I think he did well in the GM role. He has got more go-away heat than heel heat, but it wouldn't surprise me if Baron Corbin actually... it wouldn't surprise me if he wins, but I do expect Kurt Angle to go over in his farewell match. That normally you kind of put the younger guy over on your way out, you do the honours, so there could be an element of that, but I think that Kurt Angle is such an iconic figure with such a legacy in the wrestling business, and has done so many great things for wrestling in WWE, for TNA, and I think that they will put him over, as he leaves. I'm going for Kurt Angle here. I'm prepared to be made wrong. Like I say, I think Kurt Angle is a man of honour. He's got his 3 eyes. And integrity is one of those eyes, and maybe part of Kurt Angle's integrity will be to put Baron Corbin over on the way out, but I'd like Kurt Angle to win here. Then we've got the cruiserweight match. Cruiserweight champion Buddy Murphy versus Tony Nese. I think this has already been confirmed for the pre-show, which is a shame because I think this Buddy Murphy doesn't have bad matches, to be honest with you. He's quite a unique wrestler. He looks good. He looks good in the ring. I think he's a good character as well. He's up against kind of like a bit of a mirror image, Tony Nese. Tony Nese is very capable in the ring. A very adaptable wrestler. Both wrestlers very agile. Both wrestlers, happy to do some high flying maneuvers there, some power moves. They're kind of both hybrid wrestlers. And I remember when I first saw Tony Nese in the 2016 Cruiserweight Classic, he certainly caught my eye, kind of doing things that usually, jacked up guys, you wouldn't normally see jacked up guys like him do, in terms of, leaving the canvas and doing some high flying spots as much as he does. Buddy Murphy, though, has taken it all to a new level. I think he really has revolutionised kind of cruiserweight wrestling, certainly in the WWE, in terms of what he does. And he's not afraid to put his body on the line. We've seen some great matches between him and Cedric Alexander. We've seen some great matches between him and Mustafa Ali. And personally, as I mentioned a few episodes ago on Wrestling with Johners, I would have loved to have seen Drew Gulak in the position that Tony Nese has got for Sunday. But maybe we'll see Drew Gulak against Buddy Murphy in the future. I'm predicting that Buddy Murphy is going to retain his title here, and it should be a good match. Now, last year's Cruiserweight match on the kickoff was between Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander, which was a fantastic match. The highlight of the pre-show, most definitely, but one of the better matches on the night as a whole, and certainly, kicked off proceedings very, very nicely for those in attendance. Buddy Murphy here could pull out a similar show-stealing match against Tony Nese, and Buddy Murphy retains here. Although, saying that, I think Buddy Murphy could potentially be, could go up against pretty much any WWE performer on the main roster. So I'd like to see Buddy Murphy on the main roster to progress beyond 205 Live, but he's in the cruiserweights at the moment, and he's definitely, dare I say it, the best cruiserweight in that division. Then we got Triple H versus Batista. So the build to this, besides that first week where Batista kind of was dragging Ric Flair backstage on his the Raw, where it's his 70th birthday celebration, and everybody was on the ramp and in the ring, looking forward to saying, celebrations and happy birthday to Ric Flair. That didn't happen. The clip of Batista dragging Ric Flair through the backstage area and then shouting into the camera, "Hunter, do I have your attention now?" And that was fantastic. Since then, the promos and the kind of back and forth mic work between these two have been pretty dire, to be honest with you. I don't think there's many people that are particularly interested in this match. It is a no-holds-barred match, and the stipulation is that if Triple H loses, then he has to retire from in-ring competition. I think we all know that this is Batista's kind of one-time deal, so I do expect to see Triple H winning this. My only hope is that it doesn't go long. Triple H likes to have these long, quite frankly boring matches. His match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 32 was absolutely awful. I have to give Hunter credit. His most enjoyable match of recent years was certainly that match when he teamed up with his wife Stephanie McMahon against Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey in New Orleans last year. Was the best match that I've seen Triple H in, certainly live, but certainly one of his better matches, full stop. The spectacle, the atmosphere in the crowd was something that I've never ever felt before at a live wrestling show, and everything clicked that night. Everything went right for the four competitors in that ring. Everybody played their parts really, really well. this is a different kettle of fish. This is going back into boring Triple H territory, and neither one of these two have been particularly athletic or dynamic in the ring, so expect a bit of a slow plodding match. But the element of it being no holds barred does add an element of intrigue and kind of a bit of variety there. So expect them once again to brawl at ringside, potentially to brawl around the crowd, use weapons. Expect Triple H's sledgehammer to get involved, no doubt. And I do expect Triple H to win here. On to some of the kind of the main event matches. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. So I haven't really got a lot to say about this match. Seth Rollins has kind of carried his end of the bargain as far as the build to the Universal Championship. Paul Heyman has really been there to cover the kind of the Brock Lesnar's end of the mic work, of the promo work. I think kind of the highlight of the build to this Universal Championship match was their kind of confrontation on Monday Night Raw this past Monday, where Seth Rollins did get the upper hand on Brock Lesnar by giving him a low blow and a curb stomp, which might indicate that Brock Lesnar is going to go over on Sunday. But I think the championship is long overdue for a change of hands, and I think that Seth Rollins is definitely going over here. Now, there is a little bit of a kind of a caveat to that, and I think you've got these three matches, these three championship matches: Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, you've got Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston, and then you've got the three-way main event: Charlotte, Ronda and Becky for the women's championship, both Raw and SmackDown bouts in a winner takes all match, and we'll talk more about that match very, very soon. But I think some people are expecting the happy ending with Becky and Kofi winning their matches. I don't think you're going to get three happy endings here. So if Becky and Kofi win their matches, I don't think you're going to get a happy ending in the Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar match, and Brock Lesnar could retain, only to lose the title maybe a week or so later in a rematch. This is how my prediction is going to go. Seth Rollins is going to win the Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar. Moving on to Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. Now, this has been probably, I think, neck and neck, the best storyline that the WWE has told over recent months. Now, Kofi Kingston was never meant to be in this position. Who was meant to be in this position, or his position, is not known at this stage. Was it meant to be Mustafa Ali? Was it meant to be Kevin Owens? The Mustafa Ali kind of run came to an end after he suffered a concussion. Yes, he got added into the main event at Fastlane, but we've not really seen much before that match from Mustafa Ali or after that match from Mustafa Ali, and he is entered into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I did throw Ali's name out there as a possible replacement for Rey Mysterio, but we'll see how that goes. Kofi Mania has really kind of caught everybody's attention, and it really has reignited Kofi Kingston, and I think that his feud with Daniel Bryan has been stellar. I think that the mic work between these two, you're always going to get fantastic promos from Daniel Bryan, of course, but Kofi Kingston has more than delivered, certainly on this week's SmackDown Live when they had their contract signing, and Kofi reminded Daniel that he knows how this story goes, because Daniel Bryan was in the same situation 5 years ago, 2014, WrestleMania 30. He knows how this story goes, and he knows the ending. And the ending, Kofi said, is going to be him as the WWE champion, and that's how I think the match is going to go. I think it's been a fantastic reign of Daniel Bryan, a fantastic heel run as the champion. I think it's been a great rivalry leading up to this match, a fantastic build. I think that the various gauntlet matches, maybe there's been one or two too many gauntlet matches, but it has helped to develop the storyline, it has helped to develop the feud. We all knew that eventually Kofi Kingston was going to get his main event spot against Daniel Bryan, but with all the odds being stacked against him, including the owner of the company, Mr. McMahon, stacking the odds against Kofi Kingston, but with his New Day brethren supporting him every step of the way. They were able to kind of get Kofi over the finishing line in that tag gauntlet match last week on SmackDown, but an excellent kind of exchange of promos between these two on this week's SmackDown. And it's really, really, really got me hyped for this match. Now, if the women, if Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky weren't main eventing, I would love this match to go on last. I hope that we're not 5 hours in before we see this match between Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, because the energy levels in the Metlife Stadium are going to dwindle quickly with the number of matches that they're having to witness on Sunday evening, and I really hope that their energy levels pick up again for the main event, but they should be really, really hot for this match, and I think it's going to be an excellent match. I think this is going to be match of the night. I really do think this is going to be match of the night. I think if they give it a good 15 to 20 minutes, Daniel Bryan in there, Kofi Kingston playing the vulnerable babyface. I say vulnerable, so it's kind of the underdog, you could say. You got the addition of maybe the New Day getting involved, Eric Rowan getting involved. Yeah, I think this is going to be a fantastic match. I expect this to be nothing less than a 4-star match, and I predict Kofi Kingston going over. So you may remember me saying earlier that there can't be 3 happy endings. I don't predict there being 3 happy endings. I've already announced 2 or predicted 2. Seth Rollins going over against Brock Lesnar, Kofi Kingston going over against Daniel Bryan. Then you've got the final match of the night, the main events, the first ever women's main event of a WrestleMania. It was always on the cards from as soon as WWE hired Ronda Rousey. And Ronda Rousey, the current Raw champion, Charlotte Flair, the current SmackDown champion, versus Becky Lynch, the People's Champion, the man. Winner takes all, triple threats for both the Raw and SmackDown championships in the main event of WrestleMania 35 at the Metlife Stadium on Sunday. This is going to be an amazing match. It really is going to be an amazing match. It could easily be a 4+ star match. Ronda Rousey is my favourite character in WWE at the moment. She's probably one of the best female performers that WWE have ever had, and she took to sports entertainment, professional wrestling like a duck to water, and I don't think she's delivered a bad match, even when she's been in there with the likes of the Riot Squad or with Nia Jax. She really has, she's like when Kurt Angle first made his debut 20 years ago. It was like he'd been in the ring for 10 years. Same with Ronda Rousey. And we know that she's a skilled athlete. We know that she is, an amazing combat fighter. And she's delivered in the Olympics, with judo. She's delivered in the octagon with MMA under the UFC banner. And she's more than delivered here on WWE at every turn, and everything she's been asked to do, she's delivered. Ronda Rousey has just blown me away. Charlotte Flair has really stepped it up over the last 6 to 8 months, certainly since SummerSlam last year, where she's been more the heel Charlotte Flair, showing more aggression, more passion, more emotion in the ring and outside of the ring. I think her promo work has been fantastic, and I think that she's been the unsung hero of this feud, to be honest with you. And then you got Becky Lynch, who was always the fans, popular with the fans, even going back 2-3 years ago, back when she was the first ever SmackDown Live Women's Champion. But she always kind of, was always on TV, but getting the wins, slowly but surely racking up the wins, slowly but surely racking up the fan support, slowly but surely getting the fan support underneath her in exactly the same way that Daniel Bryan kind of brought the fans along and kind of really got the fans underneath him, to the point where, when the fans felt that Becky Lynch was being ignored and not getting the shots, not getting the opportunities that Charlotte was getting, or that Ronda Rousey was getting, or that Nia Jax was getting, then the fan support became even more vocal and even more vocal and even more vocal. And when Becky Lynch had that match with Carmella and Charlotte, that's when the fan support just exploded. Then, of course, you may remember that Ronda Rousey was meant to have been defending her championship against Becky Lynch back at the Survivor Series last year. That didn't happen because Nia Jax broke Becky Lynch's face. And that essentially kind of was a blessing in disguise, because had those two have had that match at the Survivor Series, I don't think that Becky Lynch would have been on the cards for having this WrestleMania match. I think that the WrestleMania main event was always going to be Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch kind of fell into it by chance. And I think that had Becky and Ronda had that match in November, I don't think that we'd be talking about Becky Lynch in the main event here. But we are, so that kind of incident with Nia Jax was a blessing in disguise, and here we are. And this has been a white hot feud. I know it's been a little bit convoluted. I know the storyline has been a little bit all over the place. I know that it hasn't made sense, but I think that Ronda Rousey recently turning heel was a masterstroke. I think Charlotte Flair has been absolutely fantastic. Becky Lynch delivers every time she's in the ring or any time she's got a microphone in her hand, and I think that this go home episode of Monday Night Raw was absolutely fantastic. It's a shame that segment after their 6 women match, Ronda, Charlotte and Becky versus the Riot Squad, didn't main event. They kind of didn't close out the Monday Night Raw, and especially what followed afterwards with the security getting pummeled down by these 3 women, then the police getting involved, and the 3 women getting arrested, handcuffed, being put into the back of cop cars. Lots of a bit of a brawl between these 3, even though they were handcuffed, and feet getting put through the glass of the passenger seats in the back of these cars, and Ronda Rousey crashing the cop car, or the black unmarked car into the cop's car, and yeah, just a phenomenal angle to kind of head us into WrestleMania. And this is going to be an absolutely amazing match. I have to be controversial here, and I really want Becky to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if Ronda retains, because I think that she's done an amazing job, but it really depends on kind of what her future holds after WrestleMania. And I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I think Charlotte Flair is going to walk out as the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion at the end of WrestleMania on Sunday evening. I think that the kind of the division was always of Charlotte Flair with the 2 championships and the fireworks going off in the background. I think Becky Lynch will get her day in the sunshine. It won't be at WrestleMania though. It will not be at WrestleMania. I'm picking Charlotte Flair. And I'd love to be wrong on this. I'd love them to prove me wrong. Honestly, I wouldn't be disappointed if any of these 3 competitors win, because I think they've done an amazing job in the build up to this match. I think it's been an amazing feud, and I think it's going to be an outstanding match. And I think this match and the Daniel Bryan Kofi Kingston match will be the 2 matches that will be remembered when all is said and done at the end of WrestleMania on Sunday, April the 7th. And that's my WrestleMania rundown, my WrestleMania prediction, and there we have it. So we mentioned last week about some of the missing names, the forgotten wrestlers of WrestleMania. We still no word on whether the Revival are getting their match now. Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder challenged the Revival to a Raw Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania. If that's going to happen, it's only going to be a pre-show, but I wouldn't be surprised if that if we see the Revival in the Battle Royal. The Usos, but this is a match that I've neglected to speak about because it only got added after SmackDown yesterday. But the Usos will be defending their SmackDown championships against The Bar, and against Ricochet and Aleister Black, and against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. And that's going to be a fantastic match. That's match number 16. I hope they keep that off the pre-show. I hope it's on the main show, and I hope they give them enough time to really kind of show what they're capable of. I think that the WWE management are very, very high on Aleister Black and Ricochet, and I think they're going to want Ricochet to kind of show off his flips and dives on the main show in front of the world. I think that they're going to put over Ricochet and Aleister Black. I think Ricochet and Aleister Black are going to walk out of Metlife Stadium as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. That is one match that I'm really looking forward to. Kevin Owens, I think he's going to be relegated to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal unless he replaces Rey Mysterio. Mustafa Ali was another name that I spoke about last week about being a missing wrestler, forgotten wrestler. Not on the WWE WrestleMania card, but of course he has been shown on the graphic for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, so we'll probably see Ali in that. We spoke about Aleister Black and Ricochet last week as being missing off the WrestleMania card, but they are part of that 4-team tag match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. We've already spoken about Braun Strowman. He'll more than likely win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev, they've been added to that 4-team match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. And of course Asuka, unfortunately, it wasn't her time to shine at WrestleMania. She wasn't. She's not going to be defending her title against Mandy Rose or anybody for that matter. She's been relegated to the Women's Battle Royal on the pre-show, and once again, no mention of the Undertaker. A partial mention of John Cena, only by some of the listeners of Wrestling with Johners as a potential opponent for Samoa Joe, based on their history. This, of course, is a prediction show for WrestleMania. I'll be putting out another episode in a day or so's time to cover this week's NXT and this week's NXT UK. And off the back of that show, at the end of that show, I'll be giving you my full predictions rundown for TakeOver New York. Now, that episode will more than likely go out either Thursday or Friday this week, but definitely before TakeOver New York, so you can hear my kind of thoughts on this week's shows and also my predictions for that amazing card. But I just want to quickly go through. I think there's been 12 matches that have been announced so far for the G1 Supercard taking place on Saturday from Madison Square Garden, and this is a combined show pitting wrestlers from New Japan Pro Wrestling and of course Ring of Honor. Some of the matches, you've got, let's see, the Honor Rumble, where kind of everybody that's been left off the show, all the New Japan and Ring of Honor regulars, will no doubt be in the Honor Rumble. So very similar to the Rumble that was before the All In show in September last year. You've got the champion versus champion. Jeff Cobb, the Ring of Honor TV champion, against Will Ospreay, the Never Openweight champion. That'll be an amazing match. Can't wait to see that one. You've got Rush versus Dalton Castle. You've got Bully Ray in a New York street fight against Juice Robinson. That should be fantastic. You've got Ishimori versus Dragon Lee versus Bandido. 3-way for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. That'll be an amazing match. You got the Gorillas of Destiny versus Villain Enterprises, PCO and Brody King, versus Evil and Sonada, and the final team to make up the 4-way are the Briscoe brothers, and that should be an amazing match. That is, of course, winner takes all match, 4-way tag team for the IWGP Tag Team Championships and the Ring of Honor World Tag Title. So winner takes all there. You've got Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tanahashi, singles match for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. That'll be an outstanding match. You've got Naito versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. That'll be an outstanding match. Jay Lethal versus Marty Scurll versus Matt Taven, a 3-way ladder match for the Ring of Honor World Championship. That'll be a really fun and exciting match, especially with it being a ladder match. And the main event of this show, the G1 Supercard main event at MSG, is going to be the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Jay White defending against former champion legend the Rainmaker Okada, and that is no doubt going to close out the show on Saturday night at Madison Square Garden, and that's going to be an outstanding match. So the plan is, not only are we going to be covering NXT TakeOver New York, that's happening on Friday night, we'll be covering it on Saturday, and that will be out on the podcast on Saturday. We'll be covering WrestleMania, which is taking place Sunday night. We'll be putting that out on Monday. We will also be recording a special podcast covering the G1 Supercard. So I'll be watching the matches, I'll be taking notes, but I'll be joined by Chris Martin, otherwise known as the rapper Half Decent, and Heather Padbury, who will be joining me in a bit of a three-man booth to cover off the G1 Supercard, and that will be out sometime after WrestleMania. So you've got three big podcasts coming out over the weekend: NXT TakeOver New York, WrestleMania, and the G1 Supercard. Before all of that, of course, and over the next day or so, you'll get my review of this week's NXT and NXT UK, as well as my predictions of the NXT TakeOver New York card. That will be out over the next day or so. But that's pretty much it. That wraps up this WrestleMania prediction episode. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. There's been lots to take in. They're really just my opinion, my thoughts on who I think will walk away the victors after Sunday night. It should be a good show. I think that a lot of people have been quite down and negative on some of the matches and the card. I think the overall package could stack up to being a very entertaining show. There's some definitely matches that will be the highlights. Certainly the match between Kofi and Daniel Bryan. Certainly the match between Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. And many other matches. Like I say, the four-way tag match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships will be fantastic. Looking forward to Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. So yeah, it should be a really good overall show, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to WrestleMania, as am I. So once again, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends and with your family. Shout about Wrestling with Johners. Shout about this episode. Tell your friends, tell your family, and keep listening to Wrestling with Johners for all of your weekly NXT and NXT updates. And like I say, over this next week, there'll be a lot of big pay-per-view reviews. Certainly TakeOver WrestleMania and the G1 Supercard. You can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Podcast Addict, Anchor, and like I say, wherever you download your podcasts. We are literally everywhere. Don't forget to reach out to us on social media, on Twitter @withjohners_pod, on Instagram @wrestlingwithjohners, and you can find us on YouTube. Just simply search Wrestling with Johners. And you can find us on Facebook. Just simply search Wrestling with Johners and ask to be part of that group. You won't be disappointed. So we'll be back very soon, certainly within the next day, for our full recap of this week's NXT and NXT UK and my prediction for what I think is going to go down at NXT TakeOver New York. And then on Saturday, it will be our review show for NXT TakeOver New York. On Monday, it will be our review show for WrestleMania. And later on that week, it will be our review show for the New Japan Ring of Honor G1 Supercard of Honor from Madison Square Garden. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will be back very soon.